Traders, today we're talking about NIO, and we have talked about NIO quite a bit on this channel, but we're seeing an overall market drop across the board, and I believe NIO is going to be one of the best pickups going into the summer. But right now, what I'm looking at with this position is some medium-term call options going into mid-March, maybe even early April. They do have earnings coming up March 1st, and personally, I'm feeling very bullish on the company. I see lots of upside coming, but this is not financial advice. Do your own due diligence. Before we get into that content, I need you to do one thing and one thing only. Hit that sub button down below, leave a thumbs up, and have the notifications turned on. We post videos every single day regarding the stocks that we love and the stocks we see with massive upside. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this video is cover a few things on the fundamental side of things, why I see fundamentally them moving up as a stock. And then I'm going to end it up with the charts going over a technical viewpoint of why I like the stock so much and why I see it bouncing relatively soon. Now, I've been laddering entries this whole way down on the longer term portfolio, but now it's time to double down and get into some call options for me personally. Again, do your own due diligence. This is not financial advice. I'm just telling you guys what I'm doing and what I see in the market. One of the main things I want to cover in this video is explaining why big brands and big institutions are dumping money into the stock. Now, I'm not just want to dump my perspective on you guys and bombard you with my bias on the company. I want to show that there is a growing demand for NIO. Going to the end of the year, this Korea fund bought about 300,000 shares of the stock. Now, they ended the year with about 400,000 shares overall, a little bit above. So there's this growing demand in instance, and I'm going to actually point out some more recent buys that were going on Fintel, but overall, when you're reading these articles and you're really seeing what companies are looking at, because they're looking at the growth, they're seeing this basically being the Tesla of China, right? We're seeing Tesla's overall market share decrease compared to these EV companies stepping up like XPEV and NIO. And I think NIO will definitely be the leader in the industry, so that is worth noting as well. You can go over my past videos on why I like them so much, but this right now is such a good time to be getting in. You're basically getting at this local bottom from the beginning of January to late December, so that's worth mentioning, and I do love what's going on. But it is worth noting this company did buy Intel and Tesla at the end of the year, so NIO was a majority of the big buyers that they spent their money on. I do want to mention they bought into the other companies as well, not just NIO, but I think NIO is where they see the most upside specifically. So I mentioned this in the last video, how NIO spent about $850 million to buy back around 4% of their overall company based in China. So now they have the market share of China back to about 90% ownership, which is a pretty substantial amount for a company to own of itself, especially one that's worth so much money and that raised so much money in the beginning. They still even buying back their positions of the company, which is something you love to see as a long-term investor. When a company owns a majority of their company and they continue to buy back, especially when it's this expensive of a company, they definitely see the growth and the outlook of the company. This makes me feel very confident placing my money in the stock. Okay, so this is the main thing I wanted to look at before we get into the charts. This is Fintel, so you have to bear with me. These numbers can lag behind before they actually report them, so that is worth noting. But I want you to follow along to some of these. We're seeing a lot of buy orders coming in here. A few of these are puts. I believe those are hedges just based on what's going on with the market right now. But the big one that I really was looking at, there was a call on JP Morgan up here. And then as we go down, we had some shares bought. So they bought some shares of JP Morgan, as you can see right here on this date. Going into here, they upped their total shares to 2.7 million shares. That's around $133 million worth of the company. We do love that because that's a giant position of the company. You're seeing more people upping their shares as we continue this dip. So we're seeing large institutions getting behind the company, and their belief system in the company is increasing as well. There's not a lot of sell-offs going on at all right now. If anything, there's a few puts. They're just hedging their accounts. I'm fine seeing people hedge. That's totally normal. But they also went in with more positions, and then they had a call on top of that as well to really double down, which is something I love to see from these big. But let's take a look at the chart really quick, and I'll show you what I'm seeing personally and where I do see the stock going. Okay, so as we look at the stock, I know this is a bit zoomed out, so you're gonna have to bear with me. I'll zoom in here in a second. But I want to point out that I've had this marker marked for some time now. You can look at my past videos. It's been there, this $52 region. This is a massive support, even coming down to this range right here, this 51.34 range. So overall, where we're at is a massive support. If we dip below this, I'm still pretty confident in the company and where they're going. I believe we're basically getting this on a major discount. The last time we broke through this area to break back to the upside, as you're seeing right here, was when we had the overall NIO day news and stuff like that going on. We saw a massive push back to the upside. Right now, what's going on is we're just seeing a market crash overall, or market correction between the Nasdaq, SPY, and all of the indexes. They're looking pretty brutally, tore up right now. Right now is ultimately when people are making the majority of their money. They're getting into these stocks. They're not really profit taking. They're maybe cutting margins across the board to, hedge their risk, but they're getting back into the companies they're believing in. And that's what I love to see. What I don't like to see is a touch right here on the VWAP pushing us back down. Now we could drop a little bit to like 51 flat, give or take, but I don't see us breaking through this range immediately or anytime soon overall. Now we're getting a little bit of rounding at that bottom, which is something we like to see, and we want to see us hold this range right here, this 39.71, which overall we are holding right as of right now. Now, if we continue this trend and kind of bottom out on the OBV, I will definitely continue stacking in my positions. I don't think we sit at this range for too long. This is something that I'm personally going to be taking advantage of and getting in positions. Now, if I'm getting into call options, I'm at least having about 2 months out, like mid-April to the end of April, give or take, on NIO, just to be safe for this stock. I do see this definitely pushing once the Nasdaq starts to, flatten out. I do think NIO can definitely push to the new all-time highs based on what the company's doing. They keep beating expectations on the quarter with deliveries, and then they're going to probably beat EPS and revenue as well as far as earnings go. The outlook is probably going to remain equally as bullish because each earnings for the past year has been extremely, extremely bullish. They keep coming out with better expectations, and they have no sign of slowing down. Like I said too, they're pushing and getting way more substantial growth compared to a company like Tesla in China. That's a pretty big thing that we need to mention as well. They're not having a lot of sendbacks, a lot of corrections with their company or their stock or their cars. That's worth noting as well. Tesla's having a lot of issues with cross-sea sales. I know not with America, so if you're an American and you have a Tesla, chances are you're not dealing with the same issues that these foreigners are. So with NIO, what I'm expecting is going to be a pretty quick move once the market corrects back up to the 57, 56 range, maybe even the $59 range. I see that happening very, very quick personally. Now, the question is, when do you start to get out? Now, if you're going with the shorter call options, I'd be very safe and look for this $57 range. That's where I would look if I was getting not financial advice, do your own due diligence. But I definitely see that being a pretty substantial resistance just coming in. But if you're on the longer term side of things, I would hold out personally, and I will be holding out personally until we start to mount this resistance and keep going up. I think it's definitely in the books. The company's seeing substantial growth compared to all of its competitors. Now, XPEV and Li Auto, those are some smaller companies in China. I think NIO has them beat as far as the luxury of the car, so that's not really in the same category, but those companies are growing substantially quick as well. So something like XPEV is a great investment as well. I do like it. I have a very small position of XPEV, but most of my money is in NIO because they're a safer name in my opinion, and institutions are backing them as well right now. They're dumping money and grabbing shares of the stock at these pretty much value buys, this $51, $52 range. You're not going to want to miss out on this in my opinion. So looking at NIO, wrapping up my overall thoughts, you can tell by the video I'm very bullish on the company. I think the price that it's at between $50 to $52 is an absolute steal for the stock. The company is showing no signs of slowing down. They're not having any issues across the board with the company whatsoever. We're just seeing an overall market correction, and this is definitely affecting almost every single stock. EV has had a terrific 2020, and I do think it's going to continue to run in 2021, especially companies like NIO. Now, personally, I don't see this company moving to like EU or to America. That's just not their base of their company, and they're doing the battery swapping, so that's not the play here. I think they're just going to dominate and focus on the Chinese and Asian market because that battery swapping method is proving to work very, very well there. So I love NIO for where it's at. I think they're dominating in their market, and they're showing that they're kind of a better product than Tesla in their current market right now. That's my overall analysis. Do your own due diligence on the company. I love where they're going. We can see $60 very, very quickly once the market starts to stabilize. That's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. If you got something else, hit that sub button down below, leave a thumbs up, and have the notifications turned on. We're posting videos every single day on the channel about the stocks that I love and the stocks that I am personally buying. Have a good one, boys. Namaste.